I hear myself just fine? Okay, I hear myself. Welcome to hell.
What's your favorite?
I had to make sure my phone is on silent. That's crazy. Cue those applause for me. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Finally, Walter Doom has come back to the podcast. Welcome everybody to Let's Talk About Horror, the horror podcast where I talk about any and everything horror related. Yes, for you the people. Yes. As we got an action-packed show for you guys today. From the great one himself, Walter Doom, on the mic. Walter Doom, providing the music. Walter Doom, providing you the laughs, the enjoyment, the excitement that you would not get anywhere else. Okay, maybe you probably will, but you guys are here chilling with me today. How are you guys doing? I've been watching way too much wrestling over the past couple of weeks, as you can see. But yeah, how are you guys doing? It's your boy Walter Doom back for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. And we got a lot of things to talk about. Well, not really. This week is a Pride Month edition. So for all you out there that are LGBTQ friendly or supporting or are that, this is the podcast where I am going to give you guys my LGBTQ movie, big topic of conversation actually of the whole Pride Month is Scream Queen My Nightmare on Elm Street and my thoughts about that. I'm going to have to start off by saying to anybody that's expecting me to give you an expert analysis about the community itself, don't expect that. I am furthest away from being an expert about LGBTQ issues, problems. I mean, I know what the issues are, but I'm not an expert. I mean, I'm just this straight black male who loves to watch horror movies, but I do not discriminate on the horror movies that I watch. Actually, before this whole Pride Month thought of creating this episode came to mind, I have watched quite a bit of like LGBTQ movies. And I mean, majority of the time, it's just literally curiosity just to see what kind of movies that community is actually putting out there, what kind of movies that they're actually displaying. Because as we all know, I mean, a lot of LGBTQ movies are not really main, front, and center. But since Scream Queen My Nightmare on Elm Street came out, I thought it was just very interesting that I just sit back and reflect, do some research, and just go over like my thoughts about the whole movement, the whole Pride Month, and just how this movie is pretty instrumental for people who are in that community that love horror. But before we talk about that, I mean, how are you guys doing? I mean, right now we're still in this damn pandemic, my boys and girls out there, or whatever. Again, this is Pride Month, so we don't discriminate. But for everybody out there, you know, we are still in a pandemic. It is still shit. We are still in protest. One thing I gotta say is that I am glad that the looting kind of did settle down a bit. Because, again, like, if you listen to the last podcast, I'm not with all that bullshit, bro. Like, honestly, to me, I just feel like all that looting, I get it. All those ancestors, blah, 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 they raped pillaged and all this other shit and just stole from everybody across the land. But guess what? We're not in that time anymore, you know? And if we have problems with motherfuckers like valuing items and shit, let's burn all this motherfucking shit down. You know, let's not raid the fucking Apple store and take all their fucking laptops and computers that they got in there. Let's burn all that shit. You know, let's not raid the fucking Champion store and ransack it for not only the floor items but the back store inventory boxes and shit. Nah, fuck that. Let's raid these motherfuckers. But in all honesty, like, why are we even burning down these motherfuckers in the first place? Why are we raiding these motherfuckers for something that happened in fucking Minnesota? First of all, I mean, as you guys know, I'm out here in California, and to me, if you guys know anything about what happened in California, but they fucked up this one mall that we called the Grove, and they fucked that mall up bad. And just not only that mall, but just like that whole area of Fairfax just got fucked up badly. And then several other high-end areas like Santa Monica, Long Beach, I believe Manhattan Beach also, they also got pretty hit. They got hit pretty bad. And just to me, I'm just like, when all the looting started, I just felt like, why are we doing this? I mean, we're attacking this whole movement in a very counterproductive manner. Yes, the police more than likely did start all this shit first when we're just out there trying to peaceful protest, because I've seen some of the videos out there. But in retrospect, looting, taking things, burning shit down, that shit ain't gonna do shit, bro. Like, honestly, all these motherfuckers was out there just to go and steal, just to be stealing. And that's all that shit was at the end of the day. I don't know, man. I just don't want to harp on it too much because it gets me angry every time hearing about it or even just talking about it. And I'm kind of sick of it. I'm kind of sick of all of it, you know? I mean, what we need right now, because I know a lot of things people are talking about is like now defund the police, abolish the police. What the fuck are we talking about? What the fuck are we talking about? How do we go from we need to restructure the laws of police to now abolish the police? Like, where the fuck are we getting all this from? But I don't know. I saw something very interesting that Spike Lee said, and he said, like, maybe we need to watch the words that we say. We need to be careful about the words that we use, because the words that we use could eventually get twisted and turned back onto us. And I found that very interesting because, yeah, a lot of people had a problem with, like, the whole phrase of Black Lives Matter, but look what's happening right now. Motherfuckers is claiming Black lives while sitting here looting stores that didn't do shit in Minnesota. And I get it too, like some of these businesses, like I mentioned in the podcast, like how I was discriminated at a restaurant, but that's because of a dickhead waiter. I was discriminated at an Apple store, which was in the Grove, by the way, which got fucked up. But I wouldn't blame the Apple store for any of this shit. I'm blaming more the coworker, man. I'm blaming the shitty people who are giving shitty service, because not the one person is not a full representation of a company. They may have the uniform on, they may work there, but they are not the full representation of what that company stands for. Because hell, one Apple store could be different from the next Apple store. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what happened to me. You know, I went to an Apple store in the Grove and then went to the Apple store in Beverly Center and got what I wanted, because the Grove had a shitty ass employee who didn't think I was going to buy anything. And that's fucking life, man. That's honestly fucking life, I feel like. You know. But we just gotta pick and choose our battles at the moment. I just feel like right now, um, what we need to do is stay focused on the main point. A man got killed in Minnesota. The police officers are they got arrested, but now they're out on bail, a couple of them. We need to stay focused on the point that we need to see these men charged for the crimes that they did. We need to see that there are laws being placed in where bad cops, because not all cops are bad, bad cops are actually being held accountable for their shitty actions. But that's all I'm going to talk about for today. Besides going through the pandemic, because that shit's starting to rise again as we're opening things up again. I mean, oh my God. Like, I guess since the Memorial Day fucking weekend and what have you. So, I mean, it's only kind of almost safe to say that people who went out for Memorial Day kind of made a shitty decision by going to where the fuck they went to get COVID or catch COVID. But I don't know. Who knows? Honestly, this whole pandemic situation, I feel like it's really getting to a lot of people, especially why we're having the violence that we're having right now. I just feel like I wonder what is going to happen by the time we reach fucking 4th of July, which is the next big fucking cookout holiday. I mean, what is going to happen this summer? I mean, last time I remember, these motherfuckers was saying like possibly the fucking virus is not going to survive out in summer because the only way it survives, it thrives in cold temperatures. Well, motherfucker, it's hot now. Why is this motherfucker still rising? What the fuck do you motherfuckers really know? And I know I'm saying motherfuckers like way too many times, but what the fuck these motherfuckers know? Please tell me, because all I'm hearing is a bunch of bullshit. And I'm tired of hearing the bullshit. You get me? I'm tired of like fucking walking into fucking stores. Everybody's scared shitless out their fucking mind. I mean, I got personal beef with like fucking Trader Joe's because these motherfuckers told me I had to pack my fucking groceries outside of the motherfucker. I don't know how many people have endured this if you brought your own bags to Trader Joe's, but I was personally pissed off. Did I fight with them about it? No, I didn't. I didn't see the reason to. It was a pointless fight. But did I go back to fucking Trader Joe's? Hell the fuck no, I didn't go back to fucking Trader Joe's. At least not that motherfucking location. So yeah, I'm just wondering like what the fuck do these motherfuckers really know? What is going to be the end game? Because it just seems like right now the end game is only sitting and waiting for a possible vaccine to come out to kind of cure this problem in quotation marks. But other than that, how y'all doing? What are y'all doing during the month of June besides stressing over all this bullshit that's happening? Now me, like I mentioned before in my little intro, I am watching different movies. I'm watching like 70s movies right now because in my story on Instagram, which is Walter Doom by the way, I put up a poll to ask, which kind of movie should I focus on watching? And the choices were 70s flicks and 80s flicks. So the one that got the most votes were 70s flicks, which is a big surprise for me. But at the same time, I mean, I guess it's a good little challenge, I should say. Because the only 70s movies that I really know are Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Suspiria, and I believe Halloween is also a 70s flick. And I want to say Last House on the Left is a. I don't know what the fuck I just said. Last House on the Left, I believe, is a 70s flick also, but I could be wrong. And that's pretty much about it. So it's been kind of interesting. I've been watching some. Well, not interesting. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get away from the word interesting because I feel like nowadays it does sound like a cop out because it's like, what's interesting about it, Walter? Well, I'll tell you, audience. But watching the 70s movies have been kind of challenging because I've been running into a lot of bad films. And the way the stories are kind of directed and kind of made, I mean, and maybe it's because they're all kind of like B horror films, but it definitely looks like it comes at a time where in the 70s, horror was not really a big focus back during that time. And from what I've kind of observed from it, because a lot of the 70s movies I'm watching, they don't technically really dive into too much. I want to say some of like the psychological horrors or some of the kind of like monster horrors that are out there. I feel like a lot of them, they tend to focus more on the reality side of things, kind of like how like Jordan Peele or like Ari Aster kind of focus on more reality horrors. I feel like that's what the 70s horrors kind of focus on. Like this one movie called Season of the Witch. It's with this housewife who is in like a, I guess, loveless marriage, and she's trying to find a way to break free from like her everyday life. And what happens is that she gets in contact with this witch or this tarot card reader who calls herself a witch. And what ends up happening is that the housewife, she starts becoming intrigued by the thought of being a witch. So she starts getting into like learning spells and shit like that. And soon enough, I mean, she starts like learning how to do some sort of magic, but it's not in a way like you will see it in movies in like fucking, I don't know, like The Craft or something like that. But it's more like if horror was a real life situation, it would look like this. It would look like something in the real world. It wouldn't look like something from a movie. And that's basically what the movie looks like, if you get what I'm saying. So, yeah, that movie was a very interesting movie, or should I say, in there I go using interesting. That movie was a really good film that I've watched. I wouldn't mind watching it again. That movie was good. It was another movie. It's a long title too. It's like The Sea of the Witch or some shit like that. And it's dealing with like this woman who's suffered from a childhood trauma of being raped by her dad. And I gotta say, this movie is very fucking disturbing because in one of the scenes you actually see like the sex between the dad and the daughter, and the girl had to be no more in the movie like 12 or 14 years old, like, or not even 14. I think she was younger than that. But either way, you just see like this old ass man on top of like a little girl going away, you know, shit like that. And I mean, there was a point to that scene. It was more like, it was a scene of her kind of like remembering her rape from her dad, and her dad had a fucking heart attack while having sex with her. But it was fucking like, that had to have been the most disturbing thing I have ever seen in a film. Besides like fucking shit in the Serbian film. That, oh my god, if anybody has ever seen a Serbian film, you know how fucked up that shit is. I'm still trying to figure out how the fuck is that a movie? How the fuck did they get away with half the shit that they were doing in that film? But I don't know, man. But yeah, I'm gonna continue watching like some of the '70s film because that's my films for the month. I'm also watching the LGBTQ type films because again, I was trying to come up with this episode for a later date, but then I remembered there are other topics of discussions that I wanted to talk about throughout this month. And yeah, it was in conflict with what I was trying to do on the last week of the month and the week before that, which is pretty much next week. So I had to push this episode to this week. So yeah, I was pretty much scrambling. So sorry guys if I come off a little sloppy, but you guys are kind of used to that anyway. Yeah, I just been watching like a few LGBTQ movies. I was rewatching Lyle because I wanted to come up with a list for you guys, and I do have a list. So I have a top 5 list for you guys today. That you can stream movies that you can stream today or anytime during June on platforms like Tubi or Amazon Prime or Netflix, but I don't think I have anything from that place. But yeah, I have movies for you guys that you could stream and you could check out if you guys are interested in watching LGBTQ type movies at all. You know, I myself, like I said, I don't really discriminate on what types of horrors I watch. I feel like I've seen a lot of shit. um, yeah, and I really just don't care about whether my movie is a gay movie or a straight movie at all. As long as it has a good fucking story to it, I'm Gucci, you know? I mean, I know there's people out there that probably don't like certain type of films, and that's also what I'm about to touch base on in our topic of today, which is about Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I did not like this movie at all, by the way. At all. I wasn't really into the film, and it wasn't because of the whole gay undertones that was in the film. It was more of the fact that I just did not care for the story at all. The story was terrible. It was real fucking terrible. How the fuck do you change up Freddy Krueger from going into the nightmare world into like he's invading the real world some type of way because of reasons? Now, I gotta say, I do like the symbolism of this movie, though. It does make the movie a bit more, and I was about to say interesting. It makes the movie a little bit more intriguing. I don't know if that's a better word to use, but it makes the movie a little bit more intriguing for the fact that it's dealing with the conflict of a young man who is becoming in terms with his sexuality. And in this film, you see his internal conflict. Like, Freddy Krueger is literally the conflict that he's trying to battle. And to me, I didn't see it at first. I honestly did not see that metaphor for somebody who is coming out of the closet as that before when I watched it. And granted, that's because me personally, I don't have those type of issues. Once again, I'm a straight black male, so how can I see the struggles of somebody who is homosexual and they are struggling with whether they should let people know that they are or not? Now, for me, in my personal life, I do have friends that are in that community. But mainly, it's like, I want to say the closest friends I ever had that were in that community were mainly lesbians. I recently do have people I know that are gay men, and that's because they are friends of a friend. So I pretty much know them whenever I see them at a party somewhere that my friends are having, or if like they're having a party, and I go over there and I'm invited, and pretty much, or we go to like some kind of club or whatever, you know. I mean, it's California. What do you expect? I mean, I feel like if you're in California and you live in like the LA area or anywhere at that, you've been to at least one gay bar at one point in your life. I really do feel like that. And it doesn't make you gay or anything like that. I mean, you're just there for support. But I know there's some people out there that have that ignorant sense of thinking. And they just like, oh, you just went to a gay bar, that means you're gay and stuff like that. No, it doesn't mean that. Again, it's like you're in LA. I mean, it's kind of weird not to have at least had one experience where you actually went and actually experienced what it's like to be at a gay bar. And it's not bad at all, in my opinion. A lot of people, they're pretty laid back, chill, cool, not too uptight. I mean, I wouldn't dance with anybody. I'm just kicking it on the sidelines, just watching everybody else have fun. But yeah, the many times I've been at clubs and bars, I just feel like, there's so many uptight females and everything like that, or too many guys trying to show off or trying to out macho each other and all this other bullshit that happens in straight clubs. But when you go to a gay club, it feels, I don't know, it has that sort of, I want to say, welcoming vibe to it. Like, everybody is welcome. Everybody's welcome to have fun, chill, kick it with them. Whether you're gay, straight, or not, or whatever, it doesn't even fucking matter. But that's just my take on it. But the point I'm making is that I've known friends and they seem pretty comfortable in their skin about their own sexuality, except for probably like one friend which I've known for a while, and when she finally kind of like came into terms of I feel like her own sexuality is when she got with her girlfriend, because before then she was dating men. But then like she got with a girl, and that's when she started kind of like showing more and more that she is actually a lesbian more than anything else, and that she started becoming comfortable in her own skin, which was good. And that's really what the point is about Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, is that the actor Mark Patton, he wasn't comfortable in his skin at first. And I don't know how many of you guys seen this movie before, but if you have Shudder, you should really check it out. So basically, the premise of this movie is that it follows the life of Mark Patton, and Mark Patton is the star of Nos 2, which I'm gonna shorten it for you guys. So if you don't know what Nos is, it's Nightmare on Elm Street 2. But yeah, he's the star of Nos 2. Now the thing is, this movie came out in 1985. So when this movie came out, and this is literally coming off the heels of the first film. So with the second film, it was written by David Chaskin, and David Chaskin didn't want to write a simple slasher film, which is what he stated in the documentary. He wanted to write something that was a little bit different. And the thing is that the things that he was writing had a lot of gay undertones in the film. So between the writer and the director, and the way the direction of the movie was going, to casting with this film, I guess supposedly they didn't know that it was gonna get the flack. Like, they were trying to go for a risky story, and David Chaskin actually said he was trying to go for something risky, which is why he wrote all those gay undertones in the movie. Now, maybe some of it is Mark Patton's doing. I don't know, but point I'm trying to make is, when this movie was made, it got a lot of negative reviews. Now it didn't get negative reviews because of the reasons of what I stated, which was pretty much I didn't like the story at all. I didn't like the story of the fact that Freddy Krueger was somehow like it really broke the laws of what Freddy Krueger was doing, and it didn't make sense to me at all because I'm just trying to think like, well, how is that possible? Like, how is he both in dream world and reality? Like, which one is he in? And it's also like it didn't make sense that somehow, some way, he manages to find his way into the real world. But I guess after learning that this movie was about the homosexual creature within the character, the reason why I guess the movie flopped for a lot of people was definitely the gay undertones, and it just got really gay bashed in the 80s. But here's the thing, for a lot of you guys who probably were born in the 80s like I was, we all knew one thing, and that's one thing you couldn't be, and that was gay. That's literally what you couldn't be. And if you were basically ostracized from any like social network. Now, I'm glad that we live in a time where things are a little bit more acceptable, and I do like the progression of everything that's happening right now. But back in the 90s, back in the 80s and 90s, especially when I was a kid, and I'm going to speak for me and myself only. When I was in middle school or in high school at that, if you were somebody who came out as gay, it was not acceptable if you were a boy. If you were a girl and came out that you were a lesbian, it was somewhat okay, but you still got the shit picked out of you. Now, it's probably a lot worse, I feel like, when it was like in the 80s, because then again, when I was going to school back in high school, and I was like in the olden age, the golden era when the dinosaurs were ruling the earth, I did not see any lesbians really getting picked on. I knew a couple of girls that were in a relationship with each other, and they were Gucci. Nobody fucked with them or anything like that. But if any of the dudes came out, oh, best believe you got the shit beat out of you. I remember one of my dear friends that I knew since elementary, I didn't even know he was gay. I literally found that out when I was in college. And this was like, and I'm talking about not even like a freshman in college. I mean, I'm talking about well enough in my third year of college. And I'm transferred out to another school. I'm talking to him on Facebook. And this is when Facebook was popping, by the way. I'm talking to him on Facebook because I see on his profile, he's a little bit more comfortable with himself. So I told him like, yo, I didn't know you was gay. And he's like, oh yeah, I don't know how you couldn't tell. And I told him like, man, I wasn't even paying attention to any of that shit. I know with some gay men, like the way they talk, they have like kind of like this feminine tone. So yeah, I mean, that's usually how you could kind of tell. But yeah, he didn't have that during the time when we were in high school. He has that now, but I mean, again, I still don't care. That's the homie since I was like in elementary. So yeah, shouts out to him. But with a lot of the things that was happening in the movie, and I didn't even notice the character had the kind of like flamboyant tone also. Like the first time, I'm telling you, this is why I don't pay attention to shit sometimes. This is how I really don't even fucking care. Like hearing Jesse talk, I'm just listening to him talk. I remember when I heard Jesse talk, the only thing that I was like really kind of like, I caught the undertones. The only undertones that I caught were like him screaming like a female. And I was confused on why he was screaming kind of like a girl. And I was just like, why did they have him do that? It didn't even dawn to me at first what this movie was about. So that was one. Two, I remember them being in the gay club, but I didn't really pay too much attention about them being in the gay club. So yeah, that was another scene that I just didn't really. I knew what it was, but I just didn't really care that much about it. I mean, I obviously for me, I knew that the gym teacher, he had to be gay just for him to be there. So when I saw the gym teacher and he was in the gay club, I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense now why he's picking on Jesse a lot. The dude's gay. Like, that's the only thing I caught. But I didn't catch anything else besides those things. I didn't catch the part where Grady, he was telling Jesse that the coach likes to hang around gay bars and that he like little pretty boys like Jesse. I didn't catch it until I rewatched it recently. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that just like really caught my attention. But back to the point I was making was about homosexuality in the 80s. It wasn't okay for anybody to be homosexual in the 80s. It wasn't okay for an actor to be an openly gay person, which is why Mark Patton didn't even come out. He just pretty much disappeared from the limelight after everything just went soured with this movie. If an actor was to be openly gay, they were blackballed in Hollywood. And not to mention that during this time in the 80s, it was a lot of like HIV and AIDS going around. And a lot of people in the 80s that were getting HIV or AIDS were homosexual men. And I remember when I was in chemistry class, because we did touch base on this when I was in high school, that HIV and AIDS was looked as more as like the gay men disease. And I remember watching a movie also when they used to call HIV and AIDS, they used to call it GRID. So it was like, I forgot what the terminology was. I think it was like gay something. I can't remember what the R stood for. But yeah, it was definitely a time where just when that was going around, a lot of people were pretty much scared and threatened by like homosexual men or just homosexuals in general, because they were afraid that they were going to give them this life-threatening disease. And it was sad because a lot of well, not sad, but it was more devastating that there were a lot of actors who were in the closet and they were contracting this disease that was killing them. I know Mark Patton's boyfriend, Timothy Patrick Murphy, he was on the show Dallas for a couple of years. He contracted the disease, and I believe he possibly passed it on to Mark Patton, and Mark Patton didn't even know that Timothy had the disease. It was definitely a devastating time dealing with that. What was also happening during that time for those actors who were in the closet, they had to find a way to cover up their sexuality. Now, from my readings and kind of like research, because like I said, I did a couple of research on this topic because I didn't want to just come on here and just give totally like this half-ass opinion. I mean, kind of like right now it's like a 70% ass. Because I really had to scramble for this one. But William Haynes, from what I was reading, was one of the first openly gay actors in the 1920s and 30s. And it was a lot worse in those times versus the 80s. I mean, besides the fact that they didn't really have to deal with AIDS, was definitely a good thing for them. But in the 1920s and 30s, they had to deal with like a lot of worse things. I mean, well, not to say that AIDS isn't worse, but they did have to deal with the point that people were blackballing them in Hollywood. You would definitely lose any kind of like roles or just like anything to kind of like keep your career going, because no one didn't want to see a gay man or woman on the screen, because I guess no one felt like they could relate to them. They just felt threatened by them, whatever the reason may be. But anyway, yeah, William Hayes was like one of the first people I was reading about him being like the first openly gay actor in Hollywood. And he managed to have a successful career over the years until his career kind of started gradually dying. Like, he had a gradual dive in his career, and that's when Hollywood was just like, hey, bro, we need you to either marry a woman, which is another thing that I want to mention, is that a lot of things that was happening to gay people, especially men, they were being set up in these marriages called lavender marriages, which I did not know that's what they were called. I remember it being talked about in TV shows, in like shows like Married with Children or like The Simpsons or some other television shows. I can't remember right now because it was a lot to really remember. But I remember there were stories, well, there were storylines, I should say, on television. And I'm pretty sure there was some actors that I remember were in marriages that they were trying to use to keep themselves marketable. But what ends up happening in these lavender marriages, they don't last long. One of the earliest lavender marriages that I was reading about was these two silent film actors named Rudolph Valentino, who he was gay all along, but he was in several lavender marriages, and his first marriage was with Jean Aker, who was a lesbian. Now, in his first marriage, Jean actually left him, like, I believe, like a couple of days after their marriage, because she couldn't do it anymore. She couldn't fake who she was. So she moved on. He kept going into different marriages, but eventually he finally came out, and yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, after that, he didn't really have much of a career after that. But the thing that I wanted to talk about with William Hayes was like, even though he came out, he had a gradual dive in his career. And when he got the ultimatum about whether he should stay in his marriage or leave Hollywood, he chose to leave, which I felt like that was the right choice for him, honestly. And he left the silver screen behind and became an interior designer because he wanted to stay true to himself. And there's nothing wrong with staying true to yourself. I mean, a lot of people want to be fake and shit, and no one is really true to themselves. I mean, gay, straight, or whatever. But moving on, not only was that going on, but we're in a time of like pre-Brokeback Mountain, pre-Will and Grace, pre-Ellen. So in the 80s, homosexual characters were not really a forefront thing in movies and television. And even to this day, I mean, they're still kind of like, we're getting better as we progress along, because we have shows like Modern Family that show better LGBTQ characters. We have shows like Queer as Folk, The L Word, shows like that kind of like shine the LGBTQ community in a different light. And I gotta say, I do like the fact that we are progressing as a society. But there is still a problem where people of the community are still being threatened, abused, and what have you. So in the 80s, a lot of roles for these characters, they were seen as jokes, and my best example that I thought of, like, when I'd seen a character being used as a joke, I always think about Bruce on Family Guy, the one character that goes, oh no, and we all know that the guy is gay. I mean, it's obvious, but with what I was reading, that, and this very much relates to Bruce, is that this character has no type of character development at all. Like, what is Bruce? Like, really, what is Bruce's role in Family Guy? Because I don't know. I mean, maybe those that are Family Guy heads that have seen every episode, including the ones that are today, because I stopped watching Family Guy years ago. I haven't watched Family Guy in years. I haven't watched Simpsons in years. But the main thing that I want to say is that Bruce's function in Family Guy is just that he's a character that comes out of nowhere, comes in with his feminine voice whenever something bad happens, and he goes, "Oh no." And that's it. There's no real development for this guy. There's no real story about him. We don't even know where the fuck he came from. He's just a comic relief. But to come back onto the documentary, to hear David Chaskin kind of blame Mark, just for him to blame Mark at first for the things that went wrong with this film, and then take it back and just try and take all the credit for this film. I felt like it was very disingenuous. I mean, I even still feel like his apology was very disingenuous, because it's like, this guy, Mark, was not even trying to come out during the 80s. He wasn't even an out actor. But he had to endure all the flack that everybody was giving him, that he had to deal with all the derogatory language being spewed at him, because nobody had his fucking back. Because why? Because the guy was gay. And I really do feel like that was the reason why they didn't want to have his back. They literally threw him into the wolves. David Chaskin threw fucking Mark Patton into the wolves and was like, "Well, there's no love for a gay guy in this world, so here you go, the wolves you go." And it's fucked up. And between like the AIDS and all the other types of illnesses that Mark caught on to, because he had like full-blown HIV, he had tuberculosis, he had cancer, and a couple of other things actually, which I'm surprised this man is still living, and I'm glad he's still living. Just to see that he finally was able to confront David Chaskin about the whole situation about, well, you said in this film this was supposed to be a homophobic film, and I feel like that's what it is almost also. Like, not only is it a homoerotic film, but it's also a homophobic film. Now, one thing David Chaskin was very truthful about was, yes, it is a homophobic film. Now, and here's the reason why I say that. If we are taking the fact that we are calling Freddy the monster, the gay monster that's in Jesse. Now, I don't know how many of you guys actually watched the film of Nightmare on Elm Street 2. But in Nose 2, Freddy is pretty much defeated by the love of Lisa towards Jesse, which caused Jesse to kind of fight off Freddy in the end. So and this is just my hypothetical thing, and don't think I'm right or anything like that, because everybody else has different interpretations, but this is my interpretation. If this is really the gay monster in the film, then is Lisa converting Jesse in the end because of her love that she gives him, and actually kisses away the monster within Jesse? Is it just another suppression for Jesse? I don't know. And this is the thing that I thought about after I saw that film. And it just made me think, like, you know what? Chaskin wasn't lying about the things that he was saying. Now, he was fucked up for saying that it was casting's problem of why this movie is like it is. But he wasn't lying about what he was saying, as far as like that he claims as a joke as a homophobic film to scare away anybody thinking gay, and that a good love from a woman could have for a man, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Some bullshit. I don't want to really remember that too much, but yeah, that's what he pretty much said. But in the end, I mean, Mark had his apology, which was good. But then another thing that came to mind about this whole thing, since this movie has claimed cult affair, and to me I still don't like the film. I'm just being honest. I don't care for Nose 2, and that's mainly because of the bad writing. I do like the fact that it does have a deeper meaning than what it is. And yeah, I like those movies that you could just kind of like, after you see them once and you don't like them, you kind of take a look back later on and you just realize there was actually something there. Kind of like with the Babadook. I hated the Babadook, and I've been on here before, and that was pretty much my first episode stating how much I didn't like the Babadook. I didn't like the fucking kid. Fucking Sam was so fucking annoying. But I managed to grow some sort of love for that movie because I watched a documentary and it was talking about the analogy of depression being used in the Babadook. And when I watched that documentary, I rewatched the movie because they had it on Amazon Prime for a little bit. Or actually, no, they had it on Shudder. Well, I guess it's still the same thing because it's on my Amazon Prime. But I watched Shudder. Well, I watched the Babadook on Shudder, and it really changed my perspective about the Babadook. Now, I still don't like the fact that this dude was dicking around half of the movie before he went on to full possession mode, but I do like the fact that it does deal with depression. It does deal with the fact that the Babadook is this monster of depression that just doesn't go away. And that's pretty much why he was probably dicking around, because it was the depression that she was kind of dealing with. She was trying to kick away. She was trying to get away from her, but it wouldn't go away. And eventually, finally, when the Babadook got inside her, sounded very sexual phrasing. If you guys watch Archer. But yeah, she was finally in that full acceptance of depression. Like, the Babadook is her depression monster, like how Freddy is Jesse's gay monster. We're really going on to a lot of serious talk, I feel like, for the past couple of weeks. Oh man, I mean, this is different from the normal shit you guys get from me. Usually I'm talking about titties. Today I'm just like, yeah, today we're going to talk about the inequalities of black people. We're going to talk about the struggles of the LGBTQ community. I'm going to tell you guys, the next couple of weeks, we're just going to be talking about some fuck shit, so don't even worry. But going back, it made me wonder after seeing this film. Now, in the 80s, of course, there was no real acceptance to gay, lesbian, bi, or transgender type movies. But given that we're in 2020, and I feel like there's a little bit more acceptance, we're not in full acceptance yet because we still don't have minorities in a major we don't have many minority movies in a major limelight in films. I mean, we have quite a bit that do well, but we don't have like a lot of them, I feel like. Well, at least a lot quality ones, which is what me and Dimey were talking about. And I believe, yeah, I think it was like me, Dimey, and Megan. We were all talking about this in the last podcast, that we need more quality films of minorities being done. But it came as a thought to me. Would this movie had done better if it was a remake? Well, not a remake, but if would this movie had a lot more impact now if it was made, if it was a sequel now, or if it was a remake and it was a remake sequel to today. Now I know Robert Englund kind of touched base on this in his conference last year when he was talking about Kevin Bacon. I believe that he was talking about that there should be a straight up gay character as the main protagonist in the movie. I kind of agree with him. Like, it should be like a shift of like the norm because, again, like me and Dimey, we mentioned this in another podcast. We were talking about how like a lot of scream queens are just white women. But there are so many talented black women out there and Latina women too. Shit. Fucking Gina Rodriguez, man. I want to see her be a scream queen. I don't know. I got a crush on her. But then again, I'm thoughting on a lot of these actresses. So so yeah. Yeah, but I wouldn't mind seeing a Gina Rodriguez being a scream queen. I wouldn't mind seeing a Lupita Nyong'o being a scream queen. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, and just like with Mark Patton, who is the first male scream queen, maybe we need a new male scream queen. I don't know. Maybe we need that kind of shift. But to me, I feel like it wouldn't have as much impact. Like, I feel like the original film right now, it definitely has a lot of cult affair, and just because of the controversy that was drawn from it during that time when it came out, has really made people want to look back and kind of like examine this film a little bit more. Now, if there was a riskier take that they went with this film, say like they made the main character kind of transgender, maybe, just maybe, it may have like a bit of a risk factor where it might create a new fanfare or a new cult classic for this film. And that's just my take on it. That's just my thoughts. But definitely, you guys should check out Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. If you guys got Shudder, definitely check it out. And what I am about to tell you guys right now are like 5 movies that's including this one. Not including Scream Queen, but 5 movies that I've actually watched that I thought were really good LGBTQ type movies. So, yeah, I'm about to get into that right now. So,
What's your favorite scary movie?
First movie that I want to get into is High Tension. This one could be streamed on Amazon Prime and Tubi. And in this film, 2 best friends, Mari and Alexa, are spending a weekend at Alexa's parents' secluded farmhouse. On their arrival, the girls' little getaway is turning into a horror where this killer is basically trying to kill them. So, I'm going to give you guys the premise about these movies, and I'm going to tell you why you should watch them without actually giving away too much of the film and relative films to these movies. So why you should watch it, it's definitely a psychological roller coaster. It's a story of like unrequited love that you kind of figure out later on in the film. There's a lot of vicious gore that's happening in this film, and the ending of who the killer is will shock the fuck out of you if you've never seen this film before. So definitely check High Tension out. Relative films I could really think of that it's like P2, if you guys ever seen P2 before, and Martyrs, if you ever seen Martyrs before. All right, second film that you should watch, and this one I've kind of talked about before. This is the one movie that's way better than the Into the Dark series film Midnight Kiss. And I said this plenty of times. You guys should really check this film out if you have Shudder. It's like literally, I feel like a must watch, but it's knife plus heart. And it's on Shudder. The premise is basically Paris in the summer of 1979. The movie is following this producer named Anne, who is making a cheap gay porno. When her ex-girlfriend Louise, who is also her editor, leaves her, and is trying to make a film, a more ambitious film, with her flamboyant actor Archibald, in a way to kind of get Louise back. But while all of this is happening, a killer is picking off all the gay actors in the film. Why is this movie interesting? Well, it's a 70s style slasher film. It has it doesn't have all the 70s grain, but it's definitely stylized like a giallo film. It also has a lot of gruesome sexualized gay murders. So one of the scenes, a guy is pretty much sucking the dildo dick of the killer, but the dildo dick of the killer is actually a dildo knife, which is like a flip side to everything. So while this actor is pretty much passed out on drugs sucking his dick, he gets like a fucking knife through the fucking head and just pretty much kills the motherfucker right there. That shit was fucking gruesome. But also, this movie has a bit of a heartfelt love story between Louise and Anne. Me personally, I didn't like Louise. She was such a fucking bitch. By every means necessary. And I know Anne has issues, and this is kind of harping back to my little rant about people not sticking around with people just because of their issues, and they're just feeling like it's way too much for them. But it's like, you knew the motherfucker when you got with them. You knew they had these type of issues. But anyway, not trying to harp on too much of it. But anyway, yeah, Louise was such a bitch. I didn't like her. And I was glad when she got killed. I hate that I spoiled that part for you guys, but I'm just saying. Man, but also what was and I almost said that interesting word again. But what was also very intriguing about this film, I don't know if intriguing is good enough for you guys, but what was also very intriguing was that the killer had a story and secret to his killings of why he was doing the things that he was doing. So it's definitely very interesting. When I watched this film again, I know I kind of mentioned the killer and why he did all the killings that he was doing, but I feel like I was very wrong on that one because I probably fell asleep on parts of the movie. I'm sorry for that, you guys, but yeah, I got corrected. I am corrected now, and when I finally saw what was the motive fully, that shit really got me taken back. I was like, what? But definitely check that out. There's a lot of male objectification. If any of you guys have a problem with how females are always being objectified in horror movies, this is definitely a movie where men are being objectified, but it's more in the gay man's gaze than anything. Relative films that this movie is like Toolbox Murders, if you guys ever seen that movie, the 1979 version, Sleepaway Camp, and Scream. The third film that I really want to suggest to you guys, and this one is also on Tubi, and this one is and this one actually does describe as interesting, but this one is Ticked Off Trannies with Knives. And this movie follows pretty much a group of trannies who are violently bashed and left for dead. The surviving ladies regain consciousness, confidence, and courage, ready to seek out revenge on the ones who attacked them. Reason why you should check this movie out, if you guys are into LGBTQ style comedy, this movie has a lot of dick and ass jokes, or dick in ass jokes, or dick in mouth jokes, or just a lot of gay sex reference jokes that I personally did not catch at first until I rewatched the movie. Now, the first time I watched it, I'll admit to you guys, I was really drunk, and I was wondering, like, because it was in my, I want to say it was in my recommendations for horror movies. So I saw Ticked Off Trannies with Knives, and I was just like, what is this movie about? So it's a horror movie, but it's more of a horror comedy, and it's definitely like, I want to say relative to the film, like movies that it's like, if you guys like movies like I Spit on Your Grave or Kill Bill, this is literally the gay version of that. This is literally the gay version of those movies. And the thing is that I do like the story. I really do like the story. I don't care for all the dick and ass jokes that was going on in that film. But definitely the story about how these transsexual women were being beaten and left for dead. Why? And this is going back to what I was talking about earlier. Oppressors, man. So this movie really touches base on those types of issues that's within like the transgender community. But moving forward, next film is Sociopathia, and that movie could be watched on Tubi. And I'm gonna be honest, the only reason why I have this movie on my list, one word: titties, 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 titties. Get it, get it, get it. All right, y'all. The old Walter Doom is back. Oh man. We got the Luke. Man, I should get like the Luke music and just play that shit whenever I talk about some titties, ass, or whatever. I might lose some of y'all right now because I'm talking about this type of stuff, but your boy loves titties. Your boy loves ass. Your boy loves the females. I'm just saying. And just seeing this girl on girl action in this film, woo! Sign me up. But beyond that, in this film, we have like this woman named Mari. She's a prop designer. And the thing is that she meets this producer who she kind of falls in love with, but has a hard time, I guess, controlling her edge of trying to kill her. Because each time she gets in a sexual situation with a woman, she ends up killing them. So in this film, she having a tough time on whether she wants to kill this woman or not. And that's when she kind of like descends into this life of madness. Again, here's some of the reasons why you should watch it. Again, if you're like me and you're just like a male chauvinistic pig, I'm not really saying I am. Obviously, you know, I'm speaking very progressive about things. And I do feel wholeheartedly about the things that I say. But your boy loves seeing the girl on girl action, and your boy loves seeing these titties that just flop in the movies. And I love it. I love every moment of it. Yes. I mean, if I could quote the homie Nick Pat, you know, yeah, baby, we live. That's how I feel when them titties was out. Yeah, baby, we live. Peter, Piper, Picker, Pepper. I'm just saying, y'all. But another thing, it's a very low budgeted film, by the way. So there's a lot of bad acting, a lot of bad CGI, a lot of bad deaths in the movie. It's just almost, it's like it's funny in a way. Like it's bad, but it's a good bad, you know? So yeah, this is the only reason why I put this movie on here, because I enjoy this film. It's maybe like one of the films that I usually tell people if they get Tubi and they love horror movies. This is one of the films I tell them to watch because it's a very funny and weird movie. Last but not least is Lyle, and this one is dealing with a mother who is dealing with the grief over the death of her toddler, which leads to a lot of horror. So she ends up pregnant again, and sure enough, she finds out that a lot of dark and sinister things are happening around her in her house. This movie is a lot like Rosemary's Baby or Antichrist. If you guys ever seen that Lars von Trier movie, I seen that movie, and I gotta say that movie is fucking crazy. If there's a movie you guys should see, also check out Antichrist. That movie is starring Charlotte Gainsbourg, who was in the movie Nymphomaniac. I don't know if any of you guys seen that movie before, but that movie is also pretty crazy. I would say if you watch Nymphomaniac, watch the director's cut. I watched the director's cut. I felt like I was watching a borderline porno movie. I kid you not. But yeah, that movie and Antichrist, and that one stars Charlotte Gainsbourg, like I said before, and Willem Dafoe. And in the beginning of the film, and this is how crazy this film is. In the beginning of the movie, you get to see Willem Dafoe go on full on penetrating Charlotte Gainsbourg. Like, nigga is just like, I mean, see, that's a black person coming out of me. Dude is coming all dick and balls deep into Charlotte Gainsbourg. And again, this is another movie that I felt like I was watching a borderline porno. I'm just sitting here like just seeing him pound and pound away, and I'm just like, damn, bro, like, jeez. That's how you do it? But anyway, but with Lyle, it's definitely like a lot like Rosemary's Baby and Antichrist. It's more like Rosemary's Baby on the simple fact that the character Leah, she's being chased around by like all the surrounding characters, like her girlfriend June, June's associate Threes. And here's the funny thing. This is how you know this movie is a lot like Rosemary's Baby. They try and give you subtle clues. So what I put together was that June's name is the month of June, right? And June is the 6th month. Her associate's name is Threes. 6 threes. 666. I was just like, oh, y'all some clever motherfuckers, I see. So yeah, it's a lot like Rosemary's Baby, but it's also like Antichrist on the fact that we are dealing with the grief of the death of a baby, because in the beginning of Antichrist, you do see like the baby in the beginning of the movie does plunge to its death by accident from an open window. So yeah, but those are the 5 movies you guys could check out today on streams if you guys want to check out some LGBTQ movies. And these are personally some of the movies that I like. There were more movies that I added to this list, but I wanted to keep it to just 5. And I wanted to make it like a solid 5. And these are like maybe the most solid 5 movies that kind of changed my perspective about the community itself. Because, I mean, I was on more of a neutral, but also like I didn't get it and didn't care for it or didn't like the whole community at first. But this is like part of like growing up. But at the same time, when I started like making friends with people in that community and started knowing more people from that community and just hearing their stories, it changed my perspective, because at the end of the day, I was just like, you guys are just like normal people just like me, you know, and you guys should be able to do the same things that I'm doing, you know, like marriage, having a family, shit like that. I know a lot of people complain about like the dynamics of family and all that, and that's mainly on the conservative side. But honestly, our society is changing. Things are changing. And to be honest, I mean, no one really gives a fuck about a story about some fake laws made to kind of keep people in line. But as we are moving towards the end, this is your boy. We are closing out. So those 5 movies were pretty much your suggestions for usually the spot of the must-watch Tubi movie of the week. So I got you guys 5 movies to check out. Yeah, but other than that, I am closing out for today. If you guys want to follow me on my social medias, it is Walter Doom 1 on Twitter. You guys are going ham on Twitter because I'm getting a couple of follows. Keep that shit going. I love it. And if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, it is Walter Doom. So Walter Doom 1 on Twitter and Walter Doom on Instagram. Other than that, I am signing out. If you guys like the content, please leave a like or comment and just leave your thoughts about how you guys feel about Pride Month. If you guys have a thought about this whole thing, positive or negative. I mean, I really don't want to hear negative, by the way. I mean, that might get your comment blocked. But you know, if you're being a little too derogatory or if you're not making a constructive argument. But yeah, if you guys got a comment, if you got something on your mind, please write it in the comment section, you know. But other than that, it's your boy signing out. Another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. If you smell it. No, I'm kidding, you guys. I know I was doing that rock shit earlier, but this is America. Don't let them catch you slipping now. Peace.